That's unusual. Were they eating chicken in there? Didn't seem like the kind of place to eat chicken.
Drac will lean out. I'm assuming as a Norskin dwarf, he doesn't have to take a roll to go. Oh, that's Zinchen shit.
You probably wouldn't declare it Zinchen, but seeing it would occur to you that it is likely related. Very related.
Well, we have an idea of what it looks like now.
You do?
Aye. Points to the feathers. It is feathers.
So it's a bird then?
No.
I will point to Verstadt and say, why don't you go look at that?
You will point at what?
Feathers.
Okay.
Well, the feathers are on the outside. Drac's leaning through the window.
So go outside.
I will make my way outside, just outside the window.
Okay.
Drac will also make his way outside, so he can look at the trail more easily.
Drac, you were following the hand trails, correct?
Yeah.
The thing that you would notice easily without perception is that these hands are very large for something that's supposed to be a baby.
I figured.
These are bigger than your hands.
What lore, do I want to roll lore or perception to try and suss out any information that I can about?
You can roll a Norskin dwarf lore check, sure, or a Norska lore / history, whatever you have.
Lore Norska parentheses / dwarves.
Yeah, that's fine.
I will re-roll that.
Remember, it's gonna be a long session. Just saying.
Fine, I will let it fly.
I mean, if you want to re-roll it, go ahead. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not telling you what to do.
I mean, if we go till midnight, I'm just logging off and going to sleep. Then.
No, we're not gonna go that way.
I can't stamp for 8-hour sessions anymore. Just can't do it.
All right, so you good with that roll?
Yeah.
Okay. You're not. There's definitely some nasty suspicions that are raising in your mind, but not enough to feel confident in any particular theory or point.
Gotcha.
All right, so you all go outside to look at the feathers. What are you trying to ascertain?
Are they crow feathers?
No.
Okay.
Verstadt
They're
will
not
say
in an unusual color or anything weird like that.
Most of them are very bloody, so it's hard to tell. But the ones that are seemingly dry, most of them are white.
Okay. Does the trail continue off from the pile of blood and feathers?
Only for a few feet, and then it seems to have, whatever blood the creature had on it seems to have gotten to the point that it was no longer leading a very obvious trail.
But there's no footprints or anything in the dirt.
There are handprints leading into the forest, but you will need to go into the forest if you're going to try and pursue this thing.
Verstadt will come up behind you and say, so feathers, what do you think we have here?
Well, it's a mutant. That's obvious. I have a few ideas, but it's not smart to say them out loud at this particular moment.
Why is that?
Foul things might be listening.
Very well.
Verve, you doing anything inside by your lonesome?
No, I'll go out.
Oh, I thought I was sent away for a reason.
No. Cole just wanted a reason to take a step away from the computer and take it this.
All right, the four of you are now standing outside the house, and you see a trail leading away into the forest.
It is still early morning, yes?
It's more like
mid-morning.
It's more like mid-morning. I'd probably say about 10 a.m.
Okay.
So Verstadt will say, I'd say we should enlist our friend Hans, but I fear this may be a little too dangerous. What do you say we ask around the village for a guide?
Question: is there a giantess in that little hut, or does this thing look bigger than a, say, small child? As he
That
puts
is what
his
happened.
foot into one of the marks, and it is obviously way bigger.
This is what happens when you're dealing with mutants. They do not grow at a normal rate.
I feel sorry for the mother.
I feel sorry for the babe as well, but we're going to kill it anyways.
That will flinch back a bit, but yeah.
Are the tracks pretty obvious outside?
Yeah, fairly. You don't think you feel confident you probably would not need an expert tracker.
I will go up to the edge of the forest, and I will. Well, I don't think I need a track just yet. We'll probably still follow the trail.
Correct. So, do the four of you want to follow it into the forest?
Don't we want some kind of guide? Because even though we can follow the trail through the woods, do you all know what's out in the woods and what would be best to be avoided?
I really don't. I also think we should bring a guide.
I will say you do that. I will remain. The village would not be a good place for me to.
Okay, so the three of us will venture
Drax
into the
staying with
village
you.
to find the guide. Okay, so me and Rist will try and find the guide.
Right, Drax, Verve, have fun figuring out how this thing is going to try to kill us. We'll go off and find the guide. Hopefully. If they're not too angry with us. Rudstaff, get ready to run, just in case.
Aye.
Alright, let me go fail a charm check.
Sorry, give me 1 sec.
Sure. As we were walking, I would say, Rist, maybe you should take the front on this one. These people, they don't seem to like me any.
Ah, well, you're an obvious college boy. No one appears to like halflings over this way anyways.
At least you're good with people.
For a given value of good, yes. But let's hope we can find someone with some skill whatsoever at finding things in the forest. Some of them seemed right angry enough that just about any young lad with a head full of hot hair may run out to try to lead us to find it.
I hope not. It seems like this will be a dangerous path.
All right, those of you who went to the village arrive very quickly, and a lot of the villagers are kind of moving about their day. You do see a man sitting near the center where they have essentially a well, and he's sitting on the edge, and he just has his head in his hands. And there's a good number of people surrounding him. A lot of people talking quietly with hushed voices. Some people, kind of holding him in a half hug. But there are people kind of moving about their day, trying to be respectful. But you do notice a familiar face who approaches the two of you. And he looks confused, and Hans says, What are you doing here?
We're here because of the... And Rist will look over at the crying man. Difficulties to help out with what we can. Do you know... we're about to go off into the woods, and Frida did say that there's some peculiar things about the woods, and that a guide may be a good idea to speed things up and make sure this gets finished before nightfall.
Not you, boy. We need a man or a woman for this.
He nods and says, "Oh,
Hans is also recovering, because remember he broke 4 ribs.
Yeah, he's doing better though. But yes, he is definitely not in condition to go on an adventure.
And I got dragged around by a spider a lot, and then I threw him out of a burning building.
He's relatively he's young, he's springy, but he kind of nods, and he sort of looks at you, Vertstad, and he looks you straight in the eyes, and he seems to search your eyes for like a really good minute before he just kind of nods and he says, I know someone who can guide you through the Eastern Wood if that's where you're going.
Was it the Eastern Wood? I know where north is, so I would know.
Yes.
Ah, yes, that's the direction it was going.
He nods, and as he's talking to you, you notice a couple of people have kind of stopped and are staring, and he sort of just, he very quickly starts to walk away, and he goes, I'll send someone to meet you at the fringe to the forest. Just you shouldn't stay here. Not now.
Alright. Good to see you're doing well, though, Hans.
He nods to the two of you and walks away.
Verstappen will also walk back to where we came.
Yeah, I will follow Vergstad. This is not the right time to introduce them to the wonders of pies.
Can I offer you a pie in this troubling time? Oh my god, that would be very concerning.
Can I talk to you about our Lord and Savior Pie Week?
So as we're walking back, I will say to Wrist, hopefully our elf and dwarf friend are at each other's throats.
When you get there, the dwarf and elf are just staring into the woods solemnly.
That's kind of creepy.
I'll whisper back, but it's better than I expected.
I don't know. Could Varv have put some magic over him? Some influence?
Verstappen will shrug.
Hello, you two. Hans is going to go find us a good guide who can lead us through this part of the woods.
The boy healing up all right?
He's moving about and mobile, yes.
It was his ribs that were broken, not his legs.
I've seen men lay down on the ground because of a finger being broken. Doesn't have to be the legs to make someone curl up into a ball.
Drac will mutter something. Will think about muttering something about like weak-willed Ungi, then think better of this current situation, and then stays.
All right. After a few minutes, a woman comes walking up, and she definitely has a lot of lines in her face, whether from age or just growing up in hard conditions. But there is definitely a notable hardness to her, and she frowns and her eyes narrow as she sees the four of you, but she doesn't slow in her step, and she goes walking up and says, "You're the ones going into the forest?"
That's the case.
No, Verv, not right now. She sort of snorts loudly and says, "All right then, it'll be 5 shrapnel to get you through this part of the woods."
Shrapnel.
That's a nickname. I thought you were city folk. I wasn't expecting to see that kind of term around here.
She holds out her hand expectantly.
Drac will pull out 5 pennies.
Sure.
If when he starts pulling them out, does she start looking up like annoyed
No.
at the denomination?
No,
Okay, then he hands it to her.
yeah, she seems nonplussed.
And then he hands it to her. He wasn't sure if this was slang for pennies, shillings.
I just
what?
love the idea of the dwarf, like, his eyes narrow and he's like slowly pulls out a brass, like trying to gauge your reaction.
That's basically what was happening. Yes.
Start from the bottom.
She takes them, counts them about 3 times, and then nods and slides them into a pouch and says, "All right, follow me then. We'll get you through the woods."
Verstappen will nod.
She starts to walk in, and she looks back at the house and shakes her, and she goes, "Terrible shame, that. Terrible shame." Where are the four of you heading?
Set that right.
I will point at the tracks. We need to find it.
She was about to take a step forward, and she kind of goes and takes a step backward. She goes, "You want?" I thought
We must.
she lets out a sigh, and she says, "Fine, but if I have to see anything that I don't want to see, that's going to be another 5."
Just start running. In that case, we'll handle it from there.
Oh, I'm not running without my extra 5 if we run into something, I'll tell you that.
Drac will look at the wizards to penny up because, this is their shit. He's already paid for 5.
Allegedly.
Drac has no doubt in his mind. He's a dwarf, they're wizards, this is magic shit, it's their fault.
Isn't he still under the, elf
Yes.
Nope.
8 moment?
Well, no, he's past that point, but it still
Okay.
should reflect on his character.
I'm still pissed.
All right, so she leads you into the forest to follow the tracks as best she can. And with her help, I will roll checks for her. I'm assuming y'all want her to be the lead tracker.
Yes.
Yes. She's the
I will assist her.
Okay, are you still covered up, or are you out on display?
Oh yeah, I'm still covered up.
Okay.
I don't trust this woman.
All right, she will accept your help, Elf. You do find that whenever she kind of loses the path for a moment, you find yourself strangely drawn to places where whatever this thing is has touched, like a firm handprint in the soil, or a patch of feathers that is caught in some brambles. The two of you together, though, let's see if y'all are able to track it. All right, she, with your help, she is able to actually keep y'all going at a very quick pace. Despite the fact that she is an elderly woman, she seems to know how to maneuver this part of the woods very easily, and she leads you very quickly and very carefully along through the forest, and you make good time passing through. You don't. After a while, you lose really any obvious signs of the mutant. There aren't the feathers. Occasionally, you'll come across like a batch of feathers, or like a small amount of blood, or like a notable handprint. But it becomes less and less as the forest becomes wilder and gamier. But she does make some excellent headway, and it takes about 3 hours as she keeps y'all pushing and moving through. But with y'all's skills combined, you easily are able to keep on the path that this thing has left behind. And as the 5 of you are walking, she stops for a moment to check the next part of the path, and all of you hear a very odd, warbling, wailing noise coming from somewhere up ahead. And the woman
Does
instantly...
it sound like a bird?
No.
Does it sound vaguely like it's like an unholy abomination of human and bird?
Probably.
Okay.
She
Drac pulls out his axe.
She throws up both of her hands and she says, "I got paid to take you in the forest. I took you in the forest." And she immediately starts heading back.
Glad you got away before you saw anything too awful.
She shakes her head and says, "I did my job. Now you do yours. Tal will be with you." And she starts walking back towards the village very quickly. All right.
Drac draws his axe and shield.
I have no idea what that noise was, but it was super loud.
I didn't hear it.
Well, no, it was on my PC. It sounded like an alert for a donation or something. All right, I'll check it later. Might have been like a new patron.
That's why.
All right, so the 4 of you are standing in a forest, and you hear something up ahead.
back and starts walking towards it.
Verstappen takes up the back.
I think we've clarified that I'm not good at the sneaking part, so I'll just follow along, eh?
I mean, from the sounds of it, the dwarf's at the front, so we ain't sneaking shit.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Drax just walked right up to the noise.
As Drag smashes his way through crumpled dry leaves and thorns and brambles without a care in the world.
When Rissa mentions sneaking, Drac turns and stares at him for a moment.
I will turn to Verstappen as we're going forward and say this thing might well be resistant or maybe even immune to our spells. So be
Immune. That's not good. Very well.
Let's try not to spawn another one, shall we?
All right. That being said, this I should note that the part of the forest y'all walked into is very dark. Like even though it's like, 1 p.m., 2 p.m. ish, it's like a little past lunch time for most people. It has gotten oppressively dark in this part of the forest, and it's hard to say why. Like there are no streams of sunlight. Everything's just sort of gotten heavy and dark, as if the very forest itself knows that something unnatural is in it and is not pleased by it. But real quick, I should have checked this earlier. Do y'all have your sounds on?
No.
If you want a more immersive experience, you'll want your sounds on. Especially you, Ver. If it's a requirement, you're able to hear what's about to happen.
is there anything I have to check?
No, yeah, you just go to the gear, and where it says Master Music Volume Level, just have it at, like, medium. I'm about to turn it on. I'm giving you a heads up.
Oh, okay, I thought you...
Don't, yeah, no. It goes on now. As rain begins to come down from above you.
Verve will stop, like, immediately in her track. And, she will say, loud enough for everyone to hear, "How did I miss..."
Verstappen will look vaguely confused for a second and then recall what Verve had told him.
First that, can you light this? I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it in the rain. And I'll pull out the storm lantern.
Did I ever tell you how to use it? Have fun.
I know how
Verstappen
to
will
use it, I
say,
just can't get it on fire.
unfortunately, I'm not a human match.
You say that contrary to all evidence, Pyromaniac.
Very well. And I will cast Magic Flame.
But I will take off, like, my cowl or my my hood and
Drac.
like kind of open my face, my body up to the rain and everything.
Verstappen, Drac ain't letting you get away with shit when it comes to fire and not lighting things on fire.
I was just saying, not a human match.
Yes, you
Thank
are.
you kindly, Verstappen.
If the party says you are, you are.
There you go, Wrist.
Does rain make your hand fire go out? Or does the magic keep it going somehow?
Sotek?
Say again?
Does
the
the
rain-
rain...
No.
Does the rain affect
Your
the fire?
magic flame is magic. It will allow you
Okay.
to. It allows you to light stuff. You can't. Don't use it underwater. I'll slap you. But in this kind of scenario, yeah.
I will say, don't worry, Wrist. It'll withstand this rain.
But I want to take the lead, and I want to march towards where I sense this creature.
I've got my cudgel in one hand, lantern in the other.
Got my staff.
And Cole, you're checking your messages, right?
Hmm. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I still want to like lead the way by good margin, distance-wise. Almost like I'm just like wandered off.
All right. So Verve very quickly leads the way as occasionally the tree line lights up white as lightning somewhere far ahead shoots across the sky, and the rain thankfully is not too heavy on you guys. But the darkness, it's almost like it's nighttime. It's so dark because of the storm clouds plus the trees. And thankfully, the halfling has a very handy storm lantern that allows you all to see despite this. And as you enter, as the four of you come over a hill, you see across a small valley that's exposed to the sky, you see something standing at the edge of the clearing. And as the lightning flashes, you finally get a good look. And it is grotesque. You see what once maybe was based on a human baby, but something went horribly wrong. And instead of having natural proportions, it is the thing that immediately catches your attention is that it has virtually no lower body. If you look very closely during the flashes, you can see what might be legs, but they seem completely black and withered away. And it has these strangely large, muscled arms, out of which massive amounts of white feathers are protruding, almost giving it this dusted appearance. But the thing that is the most drawing about it and is the most concerning is that not only is when it's looking up at the sky, and although it has a human baby's face, coming out of its mouth is this massive, long, stretching tongue that has managed to loop itself around one of the creature's arms and over its back. And this thing's tongue is bigger than, almost longer than it is. And it is not good looking. But it seems very intensely focused on the storm.
I will get my quarterstaff ready and say we must end this very quickly.
Verstadt is a little suspicious at this point that Verve is taking so much responsibility.
Oh, that's fine. Enjoy your inner thoughts.
Yeah, no, I was just saying.
Alright, there it is. If you guys want to go bash it a bit, and not let it eat us, that'd be great.
I will say, the worst thing about it is that despite the features I've described, for most of its face, especially like its nose, eyes, and ears, despite it looks almost like a normal baby if you were to like put your hand over where its mouth is and ignore the rest of its body. It has an ear, especially its eyes have a eerily human nature to them.
It's pretty messed up, man.
I was gonna say, you ignore like about 85% of its body, it looks stupid.
Yeah, mutants, what can you do?
I'm gonna start moving towards it openly, and I'm gonna say aloud so it can hear me over the distance. The storm is not yours. The storm is mine.
Alright.
Directed at it.
As you shout, it turns very alarmedly and focuses its attention on you, Verve, and you cannot help but feel a connection there. A spark of familiarity, and almost a deep accusation. But as it looks at you, somehow, despite its massive tongue, it lets out this horrid warbling screech that sounds like a baby's cry, but pitched up into the noises that only birds can make, but terribly distorted. And it instantly turns and bolts into the forest.
Way to go.
will run. I will
Who
run
all... Stop! Who all is going to pursue this thing?
Rack.
First stat.
Wrist will go.
Okay. Welcome to a new rule system called Pursuit.
Yep.
So the way this works is all of you will roll a check based on how you're going to be trying to catch up to this thing. Most of the time, it'll just be athletics. But if you want to try and do something like particularly crazy, you can try. And basically, if you lose sight of this thing, if you lose track of it, it's gone. Unless you want to try and hunt it down again. But this storm is going to make it terribly hard to track. If you catch it, you catch it. So everyone who is pursuing it, roll an athletics check. And the way it works is it's based on your success levels. If your movement is higher than 3, your movement value is higher than a 3, you get +1 success level for each point of movement. So in like Cold's case, Cold would get +2 success levels on his checks.
Targeted.
Does this storm and this creature activate Storm Chaser, Sotek?
Yes, you have Storm Chaser active.
All right. And that's actually a pack.
Okay, let me turn to its sheet real quick. And how much? How much did you pass by, Verv?
1.
Well, remember, you get +1 for each movement above 3, and you get Storm Chaser.
Oh. So.
3.
So, yeah.
Okay, so it takes off into the forest, and you notice that despite the fact it has no lower body, it seems that in its hours of life, it has somehow acquired the ability to naturally run using just its arms in this very strange, almost simian-like run. And it immediately takes off in the forest, surprisingly deft at avoiding roots, but it stumbles a fair bit, seemingly not used to this slick mud all of a sudden. And it seems to very quickly be getting mired down enough for the elf to pick up some ground on it. And it started off about 50 yards ahead of you guys. Elf, you managed to close it down to about 30 yards. You're
Okay.
You feel the adrenaline of the storm pounding through your veins. You're leaping over roots, dodging aside rocks. You slip occasionally, but manage to twist your body in such a way that you can keep up your momentum. You notice that the only one really close behind you is Drac. Everyone else is kind of struggling to keep pace. Everybody roll again.
Sorry, I'm not beating Drac.
Your movement... Jor's movement 3 or 4?
3.
Oh, never mind. Drac's the furthest behind. Wrist, you're tied with first stat.